the reserve.
Okay. Now, what made you join the Marines in the first place?
I wanted to be the toughest branch of service that I could get into based on what I could get into.
Okay. What school did you go to?
Where's Northern?
Okay. And, you know, tell me a little bit about your childhood, like what you did for fun and everything.
Normal, just basketball, spending time outside, and working, pretty much.
Okay.
Didn't really have a choice besides that. Simple childhood.
Okay. And, moving on to during your service, what did you serve as? Like you said, a combat engineer?
Yep.
Okay. And what kind of stuff did you do over in Iraq while you were that title?
Combat engineer is your job, and just like any other job you have in the Marines, first you start basic training, and then you go from there to IRT and infantry rifle training, and that lasts for, I think it's 4 weeks, and that's when we learn all the weapon systems that we're going to use, that the infantry uses, and everybody in the Marine Corps learns the basics of all the weapon systems in the Marine Corps. So we do that first, and then after that you go to your school based on your job, which was, mine was an engineer, combat engineer, which is after the infantry they would call in the engineers. Before the infantry they would call in the engineers to either repair or destroy construction. Any type of obstacle, we would be the ones to decide whether or not it was worth it, or if we can, things like that.
Okay. And what were some things that you came across, like, for example, building a bridge or something like that, you know?
We had to train, basically, our first engineering courses that we go into is basic construction, understanding of how things are built to better understand how to bring them down. So there's the engineer part. The combat side of it is we use any of the military's accessible explosive devices or equipment to search for explosive devices. So once you get that from that sense, and you know, okay, well, I'm going to either do this or this, they break it down into specialized groups within that, like engineers. So there's people who were engineers who were boat operators, people who were engineers who were bridgers, people who were engineers who were truck drivers. So there's certain different titles that you get within that, but that's just like licensing. So I got to learn how to drive the Mark III, Mark II boat. These are just our version of like a tugboat or a combat boat, because you could either have the ability to have a weapon on the boat, and I was the driver / operator / bridger, because of the bridges that we use obviously go over water or a valley or something like that, but they have two different kinds. One of them that was actually float in the water and make a bridge, and one that was outside of the water. So that was my specialty billet, was a bridger, and that's what's in Battle Creek.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. All right, moving on to after your service. What do you remember your date that you got honorably discharged?
I was medically separated honorably. I think September or it's either September or October of 2012.
Okay. And what's life like after your service?
It's not much different based on what I've learned, and skills I have. The only thing that's different is I still remember and take away from everything that I have learned in the military, and basically with my life now, and just put it into, I guess, civilian lenses, because everything in the military or civilian. So being in the reserve, we had the ability to work with both. I would go every month. And then when I got activated to go to Iraq, I was in active duty, so I know what it's like to be in active duty and reserve. The big thing coming out of the military is finding something that fits the categories of your billet or your job that you had, which is right with the engineers. So I decided to stick with what I knew and continue to build on that as far as construction and things like that. So from there, I just take what they learned, they taught me, and then I can go from there, because it's not as easy to get into demolition and things like that in the civilian world as it is in the military side, because that's pretty much where we kind of close the door to the civilian side.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I need from you. And just for recording reference, this is Jacob Pena I'm speaking to, correct?
Yes. Yep. Corporal Jacob Pena.
Okay. All right. Thank you, man.
Hey, no problem, man. I appreciate your time, too. Have a good time with your report.
Yep. Thank you for your time, too.
Thanks.